Welcome to the Millennial Network Podcast. Now your host, Coach Danny Renee.
What's up, y'all? Coach Danny Renee here. We have Terrell Jones. Terrell Jones is a coach, speaker. He trains coaches and speakers out of New York. You said you live in Staten Island?
Yeah.
Live in Staten Island, but born and raised from where?
From the Bronx, the BX.
To the BX. All right, BX. I remember I went to New York before, and I think that's like, I think they have Jamaican clubs there or something. I don't know.
Yeah. New York, I mean, you come into New York, I mean, everything Caribbean is like, we the mecca of all that. Brooklyn, you got Harlem. I mean, it's different spots. Queens. So, I mean, anything Caribbean, New York is where you want to be.
Gotcha. So even in like all those different parts of New York, is it like, because I think I went to a Jamaican club in BX. I could be wrong because I know like New York kind of it's so like it's a melting pot, but yet diverse or something. So all boroughs are still diverse.
All boroughs, yeah. You can find Jamaican clubs, Trinidadian, all Caribbean.
Okay. Nice.
All Caribbean. You can find all types of Caribbean clubs all over New York.
Okay, so I just love how y'all be like BX, right? Okay, let me not, because I'm not from there, so I can't represent Detroit all day. Anyway, all right. So how did you're from New York and you're a speaker, so obviously you have a heavy accent. By the way, I love a New York accent. But how did you get into speaking? I know I heard a little of your story on Instagram, but like, tell me that journey.
Yeah, sure. So for those, if this is your first time meeting me again, my name is Terrell Jones, and I'm a speaker and coach. And what I do currently is I work with other people who they want to train, you want to help people. Typically, I categorize them as like coaches. So typically, you might want to coach or help a specific demographic. So I show you specifically how to create a program and a business around what your gift is to help people with, and at the same time, you don't got to do it for free. So I show you how to monetize it and make six figures doing that, right? And be able to go full time working from home. So that's what I do. In terms of my story of how I got into this, Danny. So I am from the Bronx, and literally when I grew up, I didn't know anybody successful outside of like drug dealers, like getting money and all of that. So that was what I was exposed to, south side of the Bronx. And I grew up around drug dealers, addicts, this prostitution in the neighborhood. It was a lot of different things happening. And and I was running. I never joined the gang, but I was running with a lot of the guys that was in the streets. And I literally could have ended up dead or in jail. But I was in a situation where I had a cousin who he ended up going to school out in VA. So I'm like, I know what the block looked like. So let me see what this college thing that actually looks like. So I ended up going to college and just started changing my mindset throughout that process. So I graduated from college. And I was working. I took my undergrad in engineering. I ended up graduating and working for Fortune 500 companies, making six figures. And I turn around and my fraternity bros,
which fraternity?
That I know, friends. Yeah, Phi Beta Sigma.
Okay, fraternity. I can see that. All right.
You know what I'm saying? We about our business, right? So and there was people that I knew that weren't either A, they weren't graduating, or B, they graduated and weren't necessarily getting into the jobs that you spend all of this money for, right? Regardless if it's an HBCU or whatever it is. So, where my journey started about 7 years ago was, let me help college students get through the process, enjoy the process, and get into a career field. So that was when I officially hung my hat and said, all right, cool, I'm gonna start coaching and speaking. So I was in a situation where I didn't know how to do the business side of it. So I was just seeing what stuck. So first 2 years, got 0 clients trying to figure it out. And then started getting coaches and mentors. Once I started really learning what I needed to do in business, that's when things started taking off. And, now, again, my content and training is 1.2 million people impacted. I coach and consult hundreds of coaches and speakers each and every month, full time, six figures doing this, coaches, courses, all kinds of things. And it's just a blessing. It's just a blessing. And, it's a journey, I love it.
Nice. So you said it started 7 years ago where you were coaching college students.
Mm-hmm.
Were you working in Fortune 500 at the time? Like, were you working full time with the company?
Yes. So I was working full time I was
Mm-hmm.
working full time, and yeah, I mean, literally, I was just trying to figure things out. So at the time, I was working full, and I was just out here just doing stuff. The first couple of little speaking engagements I got was on campus. Now I graduated, but I still know people on campus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm using my connections and teachers, and so that's how I started warming up to it. But I still didn't understand the business. I was kind of just using connections from me being, at the college for for years.
Okay. So, and your background is cybersecurity. Is that right? I know you said,
Cybersecurity,
okay.
correct.
So you worked in cybersecurity, which, is a good field. Still a bunch of people needed in cybersecurity right now. So
Hmm.
would you say that your fraternity may have inspired you to kind of go back and teach college students? Because I know like that's a big thing as far as like the mentorship in a fraternity while you're in undergrad. Is that kind of part of what made you want to go back to speak to college students, or what was that initial drive?
Yeah, so I mean, some of it was that because I mean, our our whole motto is service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just naturally I love serving and helping people. But I think the real inspiration was just knowing a lot of people, right? I just knew a lot of people from being a fraternity. People know me on campus, and just being connected. So I was the type of person, I like to check on people. I like to see how people are doing. I'll randomly hit you up or randomly call you. We got Facebook, so I'm looking at what people are doing. And it was just a combination of different things that made me say, hold on, I see that everybody path is not like mine.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get through college, graduate in college, and getting into their career field. And I happened to just do some things right in my undergrad. I happened to, I enjoyed the process because I got a chance to do road trips and go to step shows, and so I got a chance to really have fun. So I said I know that part. I was able to graduate, didn't have the highest grades, graduated with about a 3.0, so it was cool. But I was able to graduate and get up out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I did some things correctly during undergrad, from internships and knowing how to put together my resume and all of that. And with just the combination of those things, it allowed me to really come out of college making a lot of money directly out. And I was making six figures within like the first few years of me coming out of college.
Okay.
So, when I started really looking at my friends, I'm like, wait a minute, they're not really having that same, per, you know, they're not having that same path. So that's really what inspired me is, well, let me teach it. Obviously I'm doing some things right.
Okay.
So let me just see if I can help some
How
folks
long
out.
did you work in the field before you was like, I want to go back to college and speak or start teaching them?
Uh yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was probably about maybe about 5, maybe 4 or 5 years, I want to say, maybe 4 to 5
Okay.
years,
And
right? Out. So I was already out for a few years.
got you 4 to 5 years, like in cybersecurity. Yeah, I get the feel. Um, I think it's like typically after what your first, second year, it can be very very lucrative because I know like I worked as an IT recruiter and like the challenge in the United States is that there's so many, it's more jobs than there are people to fulfill them. And then you still have people coming from overseas
Hmm.
trying to come over here to work those jobs. So I
Hmm.
get like, and then because it's such a higher level job, like you were saying, you had to go through the resume process, you had to go through the interviewing process, different things like that. So I can see, why you can give back. So run me through the process of when you're like, hey, I want to go to the school and teach. And what was your first talks about at the university?
Yeah, sure. So after I had the idea, I said, all right, well, I know some people on campus, and I was kind of helping. I'm in some other organizations too, so I was still in the area. So it wasn't like I graduated in Virginia and I moved back to New York. I was still in the area,
Hmm.
literally just a few minutes away
Okay.
from campus. So I was still on campus for different things, and so I was in a place where I said, well, let me see who I can talk to and get in front of these students and the classes, and I came out with a little book at the time when during my initial phases, and my initial talks were really just what I named it. I think I called it the graduation trifecta. right? And basically,
Okay.
it was 3 I's, and I don't really remember what the 3 I's were, but basically it was like academics, um, like 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 internship and and something like enjoyment. But obviously it's not 3 I's, but it was something. I think it was the 3 E's or something like that. But basically, that was the 3 pillars that I was really teaching. So when I would go speak to these classrooms, I would talk to them about being able to still have fun and do different things on campus, but still making sure that their grades are straight. I might do some talks specifically on, all right, well, you got to make sure your resume is right, so utilize these services on campus. Or if you need to get experience in your field, well, are you doing internships? Have you been looking for doing internships? Try to find somebody local where you can get some experience or take a course or whatever so you can get experience and you can put it on your resume. So I was giving them little tips and tricks just in regards to how to set themselves up for after graduation, how to graduate, study tactics, study techniques, how to just enjoy themselves on campus. And typically my talks revolved around all of that.
Gotcha. Now, how does it change now since you are the coach, two coaches?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, there's a lot of things that's changed, but the core of it is the core of it is I struggled a lot early on. I just kind of knew what I wanted to help, but I didn't have no idea about business. So the
Hmm.
business side is completely different, of course, right? Because I'm in a whole different place now. But in terms of in terms of the actual framework, I already it's similar in terms of like having a framework to teach. And this is, just for anybody, if you're ever thinking about, regardless what kind of entrepreneur endeavor you want to do, but especially if you want to do more speaking and coaching, you got to have a framework of what your experience is, right? And so what's still the same back then than it is today is that I still have frameworks, and I teach in frame. And when I say framework specifically like steps, right? Principles, the things that I feel like you need to learn in a particular topic or area that that I help people, right?
Nice.
And that's the same way that I teach now. So if you watch any of my YouTube videos or my Instagram or or any of that, you kind of see that I always teach in practical steps.
Gotcha. So, what would you say? So you coach coaches. What type of coaches do you work with? Is it like a certain niche that you like to focus on? Is it just speakers,
Mhm.
or you work with a wide range of coaches?
Yeah, no, good question. So all niches, right? So my goal is regardless of what your niche is, right? So you could be relationships. So I work with people who, they just left an abusive relationship and they were able to successfully leave. So now they want to help other women that are currently going through it or trying to cope with a abusive relationship that they just left.
Mhm.
I work with health coaches. I had a guy who came to me after the pandemic or during the pandemic. He was like, "Yo, I was making 200K during it before the pandemic hit, it wiped me out.
Mm.
So now I'm trying to transition my whole business online. So I was helping him be an online fitness coach, right? So I was showing him how to specifically create his program, how to do content, how to enroll people into his program. I help a lot of people want to be life coaches. So, it really doesn't matter. It could be business. So it really doesn't matter if you have some type of expertise or experience that you want to help people with. I'll show you how to do that. Now, where speaking comes into play is a lot of people don't realize is that coaching and speaking is different sides of the same coin,
Okay.
right? It's heads and tails. Speaking allows you to get more exposure, right? For example, this podcast, right? There's some people who are watching this podcast, and this might be your first time being exposed to me. Speaking exposure, but with the things that I'm telling you, you might be like, yo, this is dope. Like I'm rocking with my man Terrell. Or a lot of people call me Coach T,
Coach
so
T.
Terrell
All
Coach
right.
T. And right. And but that doesn't necessarily mean you've mastered the information. You've got some exposure from me, but you haven't mastered the information, right? But let's say if you say, you know what, I want to do this coaching and speaking thing, and then you come work with me, that's coaching, and that's what's going to allow you to actually master the information and get results. So that's why I say it's two sides, it's two different sides of the same coin. Is that speaking is more for exposure to you and to your messaging and your strategies, but coaching allows you to go deep with people so they can actually master the your principles, your strategy, so they can get the outcomes that they want to get.
Nice. That's some good info because I think I heard someone say I don't know if you know David Shands, Like I do his, like I'm in his. Are you
Of course,
are you in the
smart,
morning
smart
meetup
guy.
at all?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
No, I'm not in the morning meetup, but no, that's
Okay.
my brother.
So I remember
Yeah,
he
yeah,
had
yeah.
said something that's crazy because when you had like Clubhouse pop up, him obviously, you know, Circus CEOs, Matty J, all of them, I seen them grinding big time, and then not just them. It was a lot. I'm saying them because I've known, you know, them for years, and then you see other people that just really went hard on Clubhouse, and then you could just see like their brands and businesses explode because so many people, you know, it's FOMO to get on Clubhouse, you know, fear of missing out. But you had a lot of people, you know, a lot of fake people too making up stuff. But hey, you got to get in where you fit in, right? And their business just blew up from the main thing that you just said as far as exposure. So my question is to you, since you work with different coaches, you know, entrepreneurs, what do you feel? Because I'm pretty sure there has to be a trend. What are some of the trends that you typically run into that's like consistent behavior, and how do you get them over that hump? Or I shouldn't even say trends, but trends like issues that you see that's very consistent with these people that come to you.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, first thing, I mean, it's a lot of different ones, but I give you a couple of core ones that I hear all the time is, why would somebody want to learn from me, right? What makes me credible? And we have a lot of people who have they feel like I can help people, but they're so afraid of the judgment and what people are going to think about them. Which, by the way, I come to the front of the congregation and say that was me at one point, where they know that what they have in their heart is can really help, and what they have in their mind can help people, but they're afraid of, what if I start to put myself out there and somebody questions me, or somebody says you're not credible, or somebody says, you know, or their message falls on deaf ears and people ignore them. Right? Oh, embarrassing. I'll put myself out there and nobody cares. Right? You know, my situation was, you know, coming from, you know, the South Bronx, nobody was ever doing anything remotely similar to this. So when I came on the scene trying to do this, the thing that was the thing that limited me was, yo, what if somebody, you know, pulls up, say, yo, I know what you was doing on the block, yo, who you think you are trying to do this? So, yo, in college, yo, you was the turn up guy, which I was. Like, I was the guy, like, I got a crib
Oh
across the
man.
street from campus early, right? So I was the guy that was
Oh
like,
my
yo, bring the girls
god.
over. I had the bottles.
uh-huh.
I was that guy on campus, right? So the craziest part is like, when I really started putting myself out there like this, it was in a way where, damn, what if somebody like, yo, pull up some old photos or somebody, you know, I'm like, yo, what's like, so I was afraid to put myself out there because of that. So that limited my activity, and that limited the amount of value that I put online. And I think that slows a lot of people down, is that judgment from one person, a particular person,
Okay.
or just the world in general. Right. So I would definitely say that one. If I had to say another one, and this is for people who, like, you're already an entrepreneur, and specifically if it's a coach, it is not having not doing tracking or metrics of their key activities, which we call key performance indicators. Now, specifically, what I mean is that every business, there's certain activities that you need to be doing on a daily basis in order to make a business successful. So, for example, if you want to be a coach, one of the things that you need to be doing is you need to be having conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be on appointments with people, right? Now, one of the mistakes that I made early on, once I started getting my confidence up, is I was just kind of doing things willy nilly. Okay, what I feel like working on today. Today I'm working on my logo. This day I'm working on my website. This day I'm looking at my brand colors. This day I might, you know, do some content online. And I was doing a bunch of different random things every day that wasn't taking me towards a specific result. And I think a lot of people just kind of, they're not really very strategic about their day.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know what to do. A lot of folks don't have coaches. So I get that 100%. That's why I struggled for the first 2 years. But because they have no direction, they don't know what numbers they need to be paying attention to. Because if your goal is to make 10K a month consistently,
Right.
there's some numbers you need to be paying attention to. So if you're a coach, you need to be paying attention to how many conversations you have and how many appointments, right? How many of those people are closing on your calls? You need to be like, if you really jumping into ads and all that, you need to know like what is your return on investment on the ads. So there's certain things that you need to be paying attention to as the owner of a business. I think a lot of folks either just don't know what that is, or they're not tracking their numbers, or they kind of just being random every day. So for me, those were, some of the things that I see from super beginners, or people who they're making they're actually taking action, but the reason they hit a ceiling is because they're not doing that tracking and making those adjustments.
Agreed. Now, one of the things you said is that you have to have daily conversations every day, and you hear so many people say that. You even reached out to me. That's how we met on Instagram. You reached out to me, like, we started a conversation. It wasn't aggressive, but I was just like, yo, let's get on a podcast. And I appreciate you for that. Mm-hmm. Now, I do know that is one of the rookie mistakes that some people can make in the beginning of the entrepreneurship. Is just like, hey, I don't care nothing about you. Hey, I need to make some money. Hey, this is what I do. Yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. How do people set aside that aggression? It's like, hey, pitch, versus I want to have a conversation. But this is what I do. And do you teach that to your people?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Like, so everything we do is literally organic, it's non-salesy, it's authentic. Because at the end of the day, people don't mind making investments in themselves, and people don't mind getting help. They want to get help. It's just all about how you do it. Right? Mm-hmm. We all like to buy stuff, and we all like to invest in ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. And a lot of us know we can't do it alone, or we would need some help in doing that. So people don't mind it. It's all about the approach of how you do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's really what it comes down to. So of course I teach that. But really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you just having real, authentic and genuine conversations with people. Right. Like, you can't just be pitching people. Like, please don't do that. Please. Like, don't do that. Like, genuinely have conversations with people. It might be in the comments, whether it's a DM, or it's the same thing that I would do if I met somebody in the airport, right? Or Starbucks, or whatever the case is, that you have a genuine conversation with somebody, and then you would say, hey, you know what? Hey, maybe we could talk more about this later, right? And then you schedule a time, and then you really understand that person, right? So, don't listen to anybody who just tells you to just be pitching people. Like, don't do that. Your brand is on the line, your reputation is on the line. And you don't want to be known for that, right? And it's ineffective, right? Mm-hmm. Like, just be real, ask real questions, see how you can provide value. And if you can say, hey, maybe we could talk more about this and see where this goes, or if not, I refer people out. I mentioned David Shands. I referred people to, David Shands before, who said they wanted to start a podcast. Now, I know a thing or two about doing a podcast, although I don't have one, but I know about it. And I did try it at one point in time, but I couldn't be consistent with it.
I saw that, but I wasn't sure if you were still going or not.
Yeah. Nah, I wasn't going. I might reboot it in a different way at some point, but you know what I mean? So, but although I could have potentially helped them, why not? I haven't mastered that, right? And I would rather refer you out, right? So, like, that's really the thing. Like, when you really help people, and even if you're not the solution, it's okay to refer them out to other people. Like, it's going to come back. There's so many people in this world that need help. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to try to get everything that you can. Like, just be real, be genuine, and you'll be surprised how that comes back to you.
Yeah, I think that's the most pure form, is just when you really truly understand networking. And it took me a minute to understand that, because that's part of the inspiration behind this podcast. Because I remember, like, when I first became an entrepreneur, I was talking down on jobs. I mean, I'm a veteran, so I had my issues in the military, and my issues in the military kind of gave me issues even in the civilian world. And I was just like, yo, this is not for me, So I talked down on jobs, and I ended up having to go back. And I don't regret that at all, because I learned so many lessons in that. And those lessons were like, yo, when you go back to these jobs, you have access to network, you have access to processes, seeing how management, like, I just learned so much. And it was a conversation from a billionaire. The billionaire had to say this. He started off, he was working full time, and then you think about it, it's just like, when it comes to doctors, police officers. Like, we need people in jobs. But it's just like, if you're not me in the financial space, my job is just to teach you how to be smarter with your money, no matter what direction that you go in, right? So that is pure truth, y'all, if y'all listening to this. So do you typically work with part-time entrepreneurs, full-time, a combination of both? Yeah.
Yeah, so mostly what I do, I mean, in terms of, all right, so a core of who I focus on is people are really coaches. When I say coaches, that's also speakers. So realize that
Mm-hmm.
you're missing out on an opportunity if you're speaking and you're not coaching people, because there's this percentage of that audience that want to work with you. And if you're a coach and you're not speaking, you're not getting as much exposure as you could. So when I say coaches, just realize
This
that I mean
both.
both,
Got it.
right? So, but that's majority of people who I work with. Now, in terms of other entrepreneurs, yeah, I mean, I've worked with other entrepreneurs before. I still do. I have on a limited basis. I do, like, I got a plumbing agency that I'm working with, and so I work with other, like, throughout my just career working with business owners. I've worked with, one of my early success stories was I was working with a daycare, and I had a lady who came to me. And this was when I was really going to networking events heavy, and I'm like just pure networking events. And one of the things that she said, can we set up a time to talk, right? So anyway, so we started talking, and I was asking her questions about her business. She said, yeah, I'm getting ready to, she said, I have a location, I'm getting ready to go out of business. And I said, wow, what happened? She says, well, just parents aren't bringing their kids to my daycare. I said, okay. I said, well, how are you marketing right now? She said, I'm kind of just going, to these networking events here and there, but it's not really panning out the way I wanted to. I said, okay. I said, let's come up with some strategies. I said, how many employees do you have? I think at the time she had maybe like 3 or 4 employees. I said, okay. I said, are they helping you market? She said, no. I said, I'm gonna give you something I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna sound, it might sound a little strange, but I want you to stick with me for a minute. I said, I said, when a parent does come to your facility, how long do they keep their child there, right? Which is lifetime value, right? So I said, what's your lifetime value? She didn't really know. So how long they stay with you? So she said they stay with me for about 2 years. So, and she was charging about I think like 175 a month or something like that. But we did the numbers, whatever it was, we did the numbers, and it came out to about 18,000. One parent, one
Woo.
child at a facility.
That's good.
So, right? So
That's
18, so
crazy,
that's
but it's good. Yeah.
18K, right? Right? 18K, right? So I said, okay. I said, look, so this is what I want you to do. I said, for the first, I want you to incentivize, because if you have like employees, or even if a lot of us work, you have work jobs, right? Or you might still be working a job. People just be trying to clock in and go home,
Yeah.
right? Like clock in, like do their thing and go home. So so I said, I want you to incentivize them. So pay them their normal check that you give them. But I said, the first week, I want you to give them the whole 175. She said, oh my God, I can't do that. I'm gonna go out of business faster than I'm already going out of business. I said, no, you're not. I said, think about it like this. You're giving them 175 on top of their check. So they can get 5 parents to come into your facility, and that's 175, right? So now they're incentivized
And recruit for
to go
her.
out and bring in and recruit for you. And on the back end, that they're gonna likely be with you for 2 years and you make it 18. So you invest on 175 to make 18K.
Makes
She
so much
said,
sense.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I never thought about that before. Right. So she went in literally the next day, brought everybody in, got them incentivized to do it. And long story short, she came back to me getting ready to, she was about to shut down one location. And when she came back to me, she was opening up a second location.
That is amazing. That's a good story.
Right.
That is
Crazy,
a real good
right?
story, because it's crazy. People don't want to give up. Like they don't want to sometimes give money to like get, and it's just like, what is it, the go giver, giver's gain. All of that is that a lot of times entrepreneurs, everybody's listening, sometimes you have to give, whether it's given monetarily or is giving your time. I mean, this is what Terrell is doing right now. He's giving me his time. This dude met me on Instagram like, yo, this XYZ. He's giving me his time. He's giving y'all his time. So I'm hoping y'all take that lesson. So since I like to focus on the people that's making that transition, my audience, the people that's making that transition, and I know you got to go here in a little bit how do you get people to make that transition from a full-time job? Because I know you work with diverse people, but we're trying to find a financial exit strategy, right? How do you get people to the financial exit strategy with what you coach?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, and just so I'm clear, financial exit strategy from
Exit
their
out of that
job
job,
or from their business? Their
both,
job. Okay.
both.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So this is what it really looks like. So, one is you got to have, and it's going to kind of sound like promo, but it's really not. Like you got to have a coach or some type of mentor. And the reason I'm saying it is this
Let it
is
be
because
promo.
you want some. Yo, real talk though.
Yeah.
And my brother David Shane said this. I'm like, damn, this is such a good example. I think he said this on one of his recent. He said basically that a coach. He said, think about a maze, right? I think he used to talk. He was making a reference to like Who Moved My Cheese, and he was like, think about a maze, and your coach is on top of the maze, telling you, nope, don't go through that door. Nope, make a right, make a left, go this way, go that way. You can't see it being ground floor in the maze, so you don't know where to go. But your coach is up there because he's been through the journey already. So he has a clear plan on where you should go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times people try to transition and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't know what to work on, what to focus on, which is me. Right. So first thing is you got to get a strategy. You got to get a clear plan and a strategy from somebody who already has what you want. Right. So like have that. So now they're giving you a plan that you can execute on. Now you got the plan, still not enough for you to go full time yet. Next thing you need to do is you need to actually actively start working it and start getting results, start making progress on it. And once you start generating enough revenue, in my opinion, that's equal or exceeds to what you're making, right? And then also in terms of you got to be responsible, you might have a family, whatever, like have at least 3 to 6 months before I went full time. I had like 6 months of my personal expenses already cash in the bank, right? So I already knew like, okay, I'm making this amount, right? It's equal to, what I'm making at my job now. And then also I got, boom, I forgot how much I say. It might have been like, yours might be different depending on what your expenses are, but I might have had like close to like 20K saved up, right? But that was proven for me, like, okay, I know how to generate revenue in my business. Boom, I got the cash saved up. So then now when I went full time, it was, now I know that I just need more time. And now my actual daytime job was a constraint for me actually growing and exploding my business. Right. So have cash in the bank saved up, making sure that you have a process and a system, make sure that you actually working it, right? Working it actively, getting results, getting clients, right? Generating revenue. And then so when you go full time, it's not going to be guesswork. When I went full time, I already know for a fact that I was going to grow and scale, right? So that's what I would say, and from that perspective. And I'm still in the business now. I'm still doing it, right? So I mean, in terms of an exit strategy, I don't know what my exit strategy is going to look like for my business. I'm kind of I'm still building it, growing it. But in terms of at some point, I'm gonna be moving into other things, real estate, and start other businesses and things of that nature. But I'm locked in. On this right now, and we'll see what the future holds.
I respect the realness. I definitely respect the realness. So, lastly, how do everyone reach you? But before you answer that, if anyone, because it is about promotion, like you said, you got to kind of be everywhere. You got to be omnipresent, right? If someone was looking for your services, like what should they expect? Why should they go through you? And then how do they contact you?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, one, if you want to contact me, I am Terrell Jones on all platforms. On YouTube, I'm that's the only one that it's just Terrell Jones. But when I say all platforms, too, specifically core platforms, right, is Instagram and Facebook. I'm on the most, and then LinkedIn and then YouTube. But I'm on Instagram heavy, like that's my number one platform. So that's that. In terms of, I mean, if you're looking at a coach, I don't just automatically just accept people. So it's not like I'm not just, hey, you want to join? I'm gonna give you a link, and a credit card just doesn't get you in because I'm huge on. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm huge on who you are around makes a big difference in who you're a part of, and who like culture. So for me, like culture is a huge thing. So literally, we will have to interview you, right? And really you have to apply and see, what that actually looks like. So but if that is something that you're interested in, I mean, you can feel free to just shoot me a DM, just say, hey, I heard you on, Denny's podcast or, or something like that. If you just wanted to go and just have a call with one of my advisors, then just go to bookwithterrell.com, bookwithterrell.com.
And I'll
then,
add the link on here too.
Yeah, you'll add the link. So
Yeah.
cool. So that link will be on there, and then we'll get you on the phone. We'll ask you some questions. This is not even a sales call. This is literally just to see if we can help. Right.
Gotcha.
And and if we can, then we can potentially talk about working together, to reach your goals. But yeah, those are the ways you can find me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I know you got to go here. So I really appreciate you coming to the Millennial Network podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, remember, your network is your net worth. Or did I say that wrong? Your net worth is your net worth. Oh, it doesn't matter. But anyway, it's your girl, Coach Danny Renee. I'm out.
There you go.
All right.
See ya. Bye.